Welcome to episode 2 of our Community Spotlight with our members here at Ormo Labs. I'm delighted to have Tony Woods here today, COO of Seedling. Tony, delighted to have you. First podcast here at Ormo Labs?
First time, yes.
Awesome.
I've been here for 3 years. This is the first time anyone's asked me to talk.
No way. Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're really here today just to explore a bit more about what Seedling is, what you guys do here, and also just to chat about your time as a community member at Ormo Labs. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. So COO of Seedling, co-founded with your wife. Can you just tell us a wee bit more about what Seedling is and what your mission is with the company?
So Seedling is a digital platform that enables publishers to create educational games at scale. Mm-hmm. So large-scale publishers can create hundreds of educational interactivities in the time and at the cost that it would normally have taken a bespoke developer to create one. Mm-hmm. So that's what the core Seedling product does. We offer lots of services around design and creating bespoke content as well. Mm-hmm. So when you see me sitting at my desk, sometimes I'll be selling the Seedling platform. Sometimes I'll be delivering bespoke content for customers.
Wow, that's like quite a good little elevator pitch in nutshell about what it is you guys do here. Sounds very interesting, and I suppose we're going to dig into that a wee bit more as we go through our conversation. But I suppose to rewind a wee bit, can you kind of tell us a wee bit more about your personal journey, because you are with Seedling right now, but there has been a bit of a transition for you. So I suppose talk us through that piece about what that looked like before Seedling.
Well, we co-founded Seedling, Roshan and I, together. In 2019. Mm-hmm. That was a spin out from our design company that we set up in 2002. We met at art college in like the late 80s, early 90s. And we both worked as graphic designers in Belfast for a couple of years before moving to Dublin. Mm-hmm. Where again, we were graphic designers, but this was just at the beginning of the start of the internet. And digital sort of design was starting to become a thing. So she and I both jumped ship from the agencies that we were working for. And she took a job in the first web design agency in Dublin. It was called Innovate.
Cool. And
I started working for a company called Lifetime Learning, which became Riverdeep, which had a huge trajectory then in education. Floated on the NASDAQ, did all kinds of amazing things. And so 2002, I left there, having worked in Dublin and Boston, moved home to Belfast, and we set up our own agency. Mm-hmm. And we kind of promptly forgot about all the education work that we had done and all the experience that we had in education. We kind of thought of ourselves as digital designers rather than people with an expertise in delivering educational content. Because Roshan had worked at the BBC in the meantime as well, where she had delivered some education projects for them.
Yeah, so you've actually just so far to that point, you've had such a spanning career and sort of dipped your fingers and toes into a few different pots, I suppose, with that same focus.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because obviously we went to art college, I guess, probably imagining we were going to become artists or illustrators or something. Pretty quickly was moved into the graphic design stream. Did that, I left in 92 in the middle of a recession. 60 odd students left with design qualifications that year, and only 3 of us got jobs.
Wow.
So it was a rough time. And it meant that we kind of grew up in that highly competitive time when there were very few jobs and things were changing in design. So computers were only really starting to become a key component of the graphic designer's job. I had a sort of a natural ability there. So when I took a job in a design agency, I was not only was I designing the content, I was creating the artwork, which was something that was completely new in that type of agency. And we wanted to continue to pursue that, to be sort of at the leading edge of design.
It's that piece around like, how do you always keep ahead of the trends? And in graphic design, there's probably a lot of pieces and moving parts in that as well.
Well, that's it. We both had pretty good jobs in Dublin in good design agencies. And our next move we'd been there for 3 years or thereabouts. So our next move was to become a kind of a senior designer and get your feet well under the table in a design agency, or look at what else was happening. And it was just at the time there was such a boom in digital design that we thought, right, well, we need to move into this. When I took the job in Lifetime Learning, I kind of made a mistake because I thought I was going to be the user interface designer for a software company. Actually, what I was employed to be was a graphic artist creating the content that went onto the CD-ROM that taught the children how to do maths in the classroom in America.
Wow, okay.
It turned out I was really good at that. But that was totally by accident. It wasn't by design. You know, I took that job because I really wanted to be in that digital space. I learned so much as a designer inside a bigger organization where design wasn't our priority, communication was our priority, teaching was our priority. And that's what we've taken forward then through into Seedling now.
Yeah.
You know, if we fast forward 20 years, more or less, from that, we were delivering bespoke content to publishers, creating at this stage HTML5 games. It was taking a long time to create one activity, so budgets were not going very far. It was okay for us. So long as we got paid, we were kind of happy. But at the same time, I was going, this business isn't going to last unless we can deliver more value to our customers.
Yeah.
So we started looking at spinning out that service from iSparks into a separate company.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how our Seedling kind of came about. So iSparks got a £10,000 Tech Start NI grant to create a proof of concept.
Yeah.
From that, what we did was we were able to take the manual process and figure out how to productize it or productionize it. When we did that, we went out to, there's a conference, an education conference in London every year called BET, British Education, Technology and Training Conference. It's the biggest EdTech conference in Europe. We got a place on a Northern Ireland stand that Invest NI was promoting.
Yeah.
And basically I had the opportunity to meet lots of potential customers, show them what we had been doing, and pitch basically this new productized delivery system. One of the people I met there was a guy from Toronto District School Board. I was showing him the content. It was mainly Irish language and Ulster Scots content because we'd built that for CCEA. He was looking, I go, what's that weird language I'm looking at? And I was like, that's Irish. And he was like, oh, wow. He goes, not many people need to learn Irish in Toronto. So I was like, oh, no, we can put any language in there. Those just happen to be the two sort of indigenous languages in Northern Ireland. The two languages that are indigenous to Northern Ireland is what I actually said. And as soon as I said that, he went, oh, we've got lots of indigenous languages in Canada. I was, really? How is that? And he was like, well, every First Nation has their own language. So all of the Native American communities have their own languages. So and he didn't know the exact number. It turns out there's a couple of hundred languages in Canada and another about 100 unique to sort of the US. So I immediately went back to our website. I changed any reference to Irish language or Ulster Scots to Indigenous language.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, we got contacted by Chief of Tom School in British Columbia saying, could you build some of these games for us in our language?
Wow.
And that was the start of Seedling, really, because literally a couple of days later, we registered the company because we knew, okay, there's a market
There's a demand
for this.
and
Up until then, we knew that we could use the software, but we weren't sure if anyone else would want to use it.
Yeah.
So when we worked with Chief of Tom, the process was that they would send us their content. We would basically integrate it into our game templates and send them back the finished product. And they were explaining to us, you know, we need to be more in control of our language. There's a lot of history around indigenous languages that are controlled by people that aren't from those communities. And, you know, we kind of view you putting our language into the games as us giving up control.
Mm-hmm.
If we had a user interface where we could put the content in, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And as it happened, because we've been building hundreds of websites for the previous 10 years,
Yeah.
we had already been thinking the same thing. So we had started to integrate our games into a content management system.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to have that customer work with us to develop this, what became the Seedling platform, so that they could then start putting their content into our games, and we would have nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
We would just supply the software. At that point, we realized, okay, now we've got a scalable business.
Yeah.
So we kind of became entrepreneurial over a course of about a year. Before that, we were setting up another lifestyle business, I guess, is the way people would refer to it, you know.
Mm-hmm. You've been just listening to your story, and I think it's lovely to kind of bring it back, because for founders that are listening today who are maybe in the early stages, specifically, obviously you're coming from that EdTech side of the world, people sitting there going, oh, how do I start this? What does that look like for me? They've maybe got that passion project sitting, but it's lovely to hear how your journey has really started right back from when you went to art college, how you formed that idea, and how that through partnerships and people that you've met throughout your time has really helped shape what Seedling is now, I suppose. And really those pieces that you've done before up until Seedling has really then inspired what Seedling looks like to this, to 2025.
Well, you know, what's interesting is we were self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
Effectively, iSparks was us going from being employees to being self-employed.
Yeah. It
was a business, but it wasn't an entrepreneurial decision.
Yeah.
It was kind of us saying, okay, well, we don't want to do this for other people anymore. We'll be the boss, and we'll look after the customers.
Mm-hmm.
So we were sort of wanting to break free from having a boss.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit different from being entrepreneurial, where you look at a market and you say, okay, we're going to sell something into this market and develop a business around the customer. We kind of backed into that a little bit with Seedling, because we were good at something. We knew that this warranted having a separate business, but we weren't sure where the market was. Mm-hmm. And we were lucky enough that we were able to kind of explore that with the customers and with the support of Invest Northern Ireland and many, many other people that we met along the way, TechStart as well, of course.
Yeah.
You know, when we first went to BET, we were part of a cluster that Invest had encouraged, an EdTech cluster for Northern Ireland. All those other companies that were on that, there was about 10 of us, were really supportive of each other. It was a really good time. And everything was going good guns. And then we hit COVID.
Yeah.
So basically, in 2019, I had that really good meeting with a guy from Toronto at BET. Mm-hmm. That's January. That's usually about mid-January. We set the company up at the end of that month. We did the work with Chief of Tom as our first customer. We were then trying to find other customers for Seedling. When we went back to BET in 2020, we then had conversations with major publishers, and with 3 really, really interested major publishers, global publishers, one in London, one in New York, and one in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And the London one kicked off right away, and the other 2 basically were in mid-conversation when COVID happened. And basically everything went on hold, more or less, for another year. Mm-hmm. There was no BET the following year. So then we were kind of making up time. So we moved into the Armo Labs here in October 2021. Mm-hmm. So sort of just as COVID was starting to ease up and you could go out and do things. And it was kind of a shot in the arm that we needed then to meet with other people again and start to be, again, working on the company. Mm-hmm. You know, whereas we had a year where we spent trying to just sell to people that we'd already met and get those deals over the line. And we got a couple of them to actually happen. But it was sparse, you know.
Yeah. How I suppose did the being around other founders and creatives within Ormo Labs help for you and Roisin within Seedling's progression?
Well, again, the brilliant thing about being somewhere like this is everybody's in the same boat. You know, everyone is trying to make their idea become a reality, or take the thing that's become a reality and scale it up, or, you know, figure out how to take customer feedback and implement that and understand where that leads you in terms of opportunity for other sales. So being here has been really beneficial. Other offices that we'd been in were with other established businesses. There was very little of that kind of cross-pollination.
Yeah.
There wasn't these, like, I mean, we have a shared kitchen. I'm kind of famous in here for being the guy making weird breakfast in the kitchen.
Eating raw onions like apples. It's on record now.
Yeah, that's now gone down, and that's supposed to be very good for you, apparently. Like, very shiny hair, you know.
There you go. There's benefits.
So, you know, I will have conversations with people in the kitchen that I would not have had otherwise. You know, I'm considerably older than quite a few people who will be in here as well. So, you know, when you're out there, maybe you have an office and you're kind of isolated from the rest of the world, and you're only really talking to your customers and people that you know. Whereas in here, there's always new blood. There's always a flow of new ideas, new people. So from an older guy's point of view, it makes you feel young. Yeah. But also you pick up on if people are talking about new technologies, if they're using AI, you're kind of thinking, okay, well, if they're using it, I should try to understand this.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't reached the point yet where I pick up the device and go, I don't know what to do with this thing. I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah. It's like we're all in the same boat, sailing in the same direction, aren't we? We all want to help each other. I think that's the massive thing here.
Yeah.
And if it's standing in the kitchen while boiling the kettle, or if it's standing by the printer, there's that piece around we're all on that same journey together, and we all want to help each other. And if one person might not know it, somebody else will, which is lovely. And from my experience, you've been here since 2021, so you're coming up to your 21, 22, like 3 year? I'm so bad at maths. 4 year? I don't know. Anyway, you're coming up to an anniversary.
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years, wow.
I would have said 3 years off the top. This is the thing, though. The COVID years kind of...
Yeah, they're a blur.
Yeah, they got accordioned, put away in a secret drawer that I don't want to open ever again.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. I mean, it's been lovely to hear about the journey, I suppose, with Seedling, and also that journey around coming to Ormo Labs and creating that piece around building that community. And recently you were actually away in San Diego at a massive conference. How was that for you as an experience, you know, on that international global scale for Seedling? Like, how was that?
Yeah. So if I kind of rewind a little bit, right, to my experience with Riverdeep. So that company was contemplating floating on the stock market. We knew we needed a footprint in the US. We knew most of our customers were going to be there. So we bought a company in Boston, and I was sent out to kind of integrate that company into the Riverdeep family and set up a website and manage sort of our online presence. This was kind of just at the beginning, or just at the peak of the .com bubble. So from day one, I knew that a large component of our business was going to be in the US, and you can't really sell in America unless you're over there.
Yeah. And
we have been flitting back and forth over the last couple of years, but we were trying to figure out where is our market fit? Where do we fit with this market? Where are the right conferences to go to? Who are the right people to meet? And we developed a relationship with a really good guy named Kevin Gray, who he had been a customer of ours, and then he left that business, set up his own consultancy, and we have developed a partnership with him now where he's helping us basically meet the right people.
Yeah.
So San Diego was the first conference that it was one that he said, if you don't do any other conference, you have to do this one. And the really cool thing about that is called ASU GSV.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about that is it's B2B. So it's all the people who work in EdTech selling product to either each other that then is sold on to schools and the other people that are buying it. So it means that when you're meeting, every networking event you're at is full of relevant people to your business.
Yeah.
You know, I was a couple of months after that conference, I went to the one named ISTE, which is basically the T in that it stands for teachers.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of similar to BET. There's thousands of teachers at the event. So the cost you meet the end user in our case, but we don't actually work with teachers. We work with publishers. So we need to meet the people that are creating the products for the teachers rather than talking directly to the teachers themselves. And that was a revelation, really. And that conference was pivotal for us. We came away with 6 or 7 really, not just leads, but actual potential customers, you know. And one
That's
of those,
massive.
we're signing a deal hopefully in the next month or two with one of those people that we met at that.
Yeah.
And, you know, another funny thing about Seedling is that we developed the software at a time when the market, the larger market didn't really understand that they needed the software. And the last thing you want to be with as an entrepreneur, as an evangelist, if you're going out trying to convince people that they need something that they don't even realize is an option.
Yeah.
You need a lot of budget behind you to do
it's a
that.
tricky market.
You know? So we were kind of lucky that we found our indigenous market. So those people we would refer to as niche publishers.
Yeah.
You know, so they're self-publishing. They're creating content that no one else in the world is going to create for them. That gave us time to have that beachhead market, work within that, and we've got 16 indigenous language customers in North America now.
Wow.
But all the time we were working towards getting ourselves into the kind of bigger commercial publishing market. And we just needed to figure out how to speak to those people properly, how to highlight to them the advantages of working with us. And as it turned out, they needed a little bit of time to start to realize, okay, there's market demand for that kind of content, game-based learning content for them as well. So if you think about what publishers were doing, they were going from the printed book to digital content. Their first journey was to basically convert those printed materials into digital content and then add a little bit more interactivity into it. And when you think about what schools were doing, they were using computers and iPads to access those effectively PDFs and then sort of slightly more interactive PDFs and digital content resources. Now the kids in the classroom are saying, we want something more. We want something that's more interactive. We want something that feels more like a game.
Yeah, and that's the thing of always having to keep up and making sure that you're supplying the needs and demands to the end user, really.
Well, we were slightly ahead of the market, but not so far ahead of the market that we would have disappeared before the market caught up. So I think we're reaping the benefits now of having a platform that really works for the people that we really want to target. And we've developed good relationships with people who can help us meet those people.
I was just about to say, sort of from that, you know, there's been a really key part in your journey, that partnership piece. And it's about, and I suppose I'm trying to sit in the shoes of a founder recently, somebody who's just came up with this idea or has started fleshing out the idea. That piece around being connected to the right people that can then connect you to the right people to keep that chain moving. So it's telling you which conferences you need to go to, which ones are you going to really get that impact at, it has really probably helped you along your journey, I would say. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I would say to anybody is it's going to take longer than you think. And everybody says that, but you kind of sat in the room going, oh, well, I know exactly who I need to target. I know what I want to sell. But it's in the nuance, it's in the detail. and sometimes the detail can take a long time to realize that, and when you look back on it, you kind of go, oh, that was so obvious. We should have went there. We should have done this. We should have done that.
Yeah.
But when you're in the weeds and you are trying to deliver projects for existing customers, you're trying to figure out how to market what you've done and convert that into new marketing material, and reach out to the people you've already met. And, you know, quite often you can meet people who are nearly the right customer. And as a business owner, you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I can convert those folks. And, you know, you get a bit, you spend a lot of time chasing the wrong leads. And I've been in rooms, I've been on programs where people say, oh, you know, you need to have, if you have a lot of money behind you, yes, you have the time to stop and then analyze the market. But if you're like us and you're kind of doing things in a bootstrapped fashion, you don't have that much cash to spend. If you're spending it, you're spending your own money. Then, you know, you can't afford to sit around saying, oh, well, we'll not take that customer because they're not quite right for us. You know, you have to try to make it work in the meantime and learn from it. So that took much longer than I ever expected. You know, now I feel like we have a much better profile of the customer, that we have an understanding of what that customer looks like.
Yeah. And like you say, that's taken time. Yeah.
Takes time, and you learn more. You can stand at the whiteboard as long as you want, writing things on post-it notes and moving them around the board. But it's talking to those people, interacting with them, working with them, really starts to define. You start to really understand their problem, the thing that the barriers in terms of why will they not buy.
Yeah.
And quite often it's the barriers is the thing that you need to overcome.
Yeah.
You know, every time I demoed Seedling, I never had a bad meeting. I never had anyone go, oh, I don't like that. Oh, that's not a good idea. Everybody's like, oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
But understanding why they wouldn't or couldn't buy, that took a lot longer than I expected. And, you know, now I understand a lot of the worries that those people are dealing day to day, how our platform solves problems for them, how we can help them solve problems. Sometimes it's not the platform. Sometimes it's my experience is what really helps them. And you have to kind of understand and get a balance across that. So
I suppose to sort of close off in a way, and you've talked around and touched on how you're continually evolving to always be meeting the needs of the end user. I suppose to look forward now, what does that look like? What does it look like for Seedling? What's the big what next, I suppose?
Well, obviously AI is like everywhere, and it's, you know, at the last conference I went to, the San Diego conference was split into two. We had that brilliant kind of B2B aspect, and there was also a dedicated AI show.
Yeah.
And it was really good to actually walk around that show and see what people were doing and get a better idea for how other people were using AI in their businesses. We, as it happened, had already built an AI platform, a very early stage one, and we understood quite a lot of the difficulties with AI. But it changes so fast that we kind of said, okay, let's just not get too obsessed with this and learn about it and as we go and understand where it fits with our business. For us, we're looking more at partnerships going forward.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a lot of customers now who say, we'd love to be able to integrate your software into our delivery so that our customers could build their own games and activities. So that's something that we're kind of looking at in the sort of short to medium term, is how do we make it easier for people to connect our software into theirs.
Build it into something. Yeah. Wow. That's really cool.
In the very short term, there's a big push in terms of accessibility. So there's new legislation was passed in June for Europe, and in April of next year it's going to come into this, more or less exactly the same legislation will come into force in the US. So that's an opportunity for us, because a lot of publishers are saying, okay, we need to be more accessible.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're setting now short, medium and long-term goals. So the integration thing is probably more of a long-term goal. Short-term is the accessibility, and somewhere in between those is probably AI that will help us get both together. You know?
And fast track that probably as well. You know, short-term and or long-term goals are probably only a year now, whereas it used to be 3 to 5 years. So that's what's happening in the world, and we're trying to keep up. It sounds like you've got it really well mapped out, which is fantastic, I suppose, from your perspective. And to close today's really interesting conversation, it's been great for me to understand a wee bit more about your journey and what Seedling is about and what it represents to the founders and those that are using it. Anyone sitting at home or listening today who are in that EdTech space, I suppose, what's the best way for them to follow that journey, follow Seedling's journey, and connect with you guys, yourself and Roisin?
We do actually mentor some. Roisin does most of this, actually.
Amazing.
Mentor some EdTech companies.
Yeah.
She has connections with Catalyst, with obviously in here as well.
Yeah.
Women in business. So she has been doing a lot of mentoring, especially for female founders. You know, the route that we followed isn't a bad one. TechStart have a much more generous grant now than the 10K we got. I think it's up to 30 grand now for a proof of concept. I would encourage people to spend more time thinking about the entrepreneur aspect of this. Just because you're good at something and you can see an opportunity isn't necessarily the best opportunity for you. And you need to create the space and time to try to understand that. You won't get everything right, but it might prevent you from going down spending money unnecessarily, or getting somewhere after 6 months and realizing, oh, this isn't right. And we've done it. We've made all those mistakes. So, if people are talking to us, we can help guide them away from some of those things.
That is really good advice, I think, for anybody listening. That piece around just like mapping it out. Like, you have to actually spend time just thrashing, building and working it out and figuring out if that's for you, I suppose, and what that looks like.
I mean, I would also encourage people, go to as many events as they can go to.
Yeah.
So bet anyone who's in education.
And where's that?
It's in the Excel arena every year.
Okay.
In January. So it's usually around the 23rd of January for 3 days. It's well worth going to, because then you get a really broad picture of what's happening in the industry, and you meet loads of teachers and you meet loads of people that are working it. There's a pretty healthy EdTech sector now across the island of Ireland. The Northern Ireland EdTech sector has some pretty key companies working in it that again are leaders in their field, and they're, we found them to be very helpful, and in general, we're not in competition with each other because it's a global market.
Yeah.
And so, you will find that other EdTech companies, people in EdTech companies are always willing to kind of help each other out, or at least have a conversation.
Yeah.
And in fact, we've found that with most entrepreneurs. They're very willing to talk and help you if they can, as long as you don't use up too much of their time.
Tony, look, this has been amazing. It's been amazing to hear about Seedling's journey, the global impact and the global partnerships that you've been able to create across the years of Seedling. But thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to chat to us today. It's a delight to have you as one of our community members, and for taking the time to join us on episode 2 of this podcast series. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to chat.
You're welcome.